a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the
What's going on, guys? The live rose. I am here with Chef Michael Lombardi. What's going on, Mike? How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Definitely.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me. I've been trying to do this for a while now. It's like, let me finally get in touch with you, so thank you. So usually when I first start out, I like to just kind of go through a timeline, and then we kind of go into the depths of everything. So if you don't mind, let's talk about your career so far. What got you in to loving food, being a chef, up until this point right now?
So, it comes from the beginning. It's really just like my Italian-American heritage, my family growing up, holidays, or just big get-togethers where there was 30 plus people celebrating, and the focal point was always food. And just my grandparents' love for cooking, my parents' love for cooking. So I think that got me started. I didn't realize it at the time that I was into it. I just thought it was kind of the way people live their life. It's the culture that I knew. And then also I would say parallel to that, sports teams, high intensity, fast paced, quick decision making. So when I got to college, I went to Boston University. I wanted to get into restaurants because I felt like it took those two ideas of, similar to sports. You kind of have a game plan going into every dinner service of a restaurant, but it's never the same, and you're always making decisions using your experience, but they're always different decisions and there's always different scenarios. So I enjoyed that part of it, and then the food part of it. So I got into restaurants when I was in college.
Nice.
And that kind of completed my journey. From then on out, I've just been in it ever since.
That's amazing. And I'm gonna go to like the super beginning. As a child, you kind of mention your grandparents a lot too. It seems like food was around you quite a bit. Were there any inspirations, even growing up, or even like while going through school, that you really kind of like geared towards to, or like look up to?
I have like a couple strong memories around holidays specifically. My dad's mother, you would host Thanksgiving every year and make manigot, as we would say, which is just like a crepe-filled pasta with ricotta filling, which is not a traditional Thanksgiving dish. And she would make that every year, and I have the recipe now, and it's just one of those dishes I love, and just the comfort of that experience. And then Christmas dinner, or Christmas Eve, really, the Feast of the Seven Fishes. I did a lot of, in high school, I would cook a lot with my grandparents on my mom's side, spend the night at their house, make all the food with them for everyone to show up the next day. So I think those two meals really were big meals for me. But the other thing was just being around good food all the time. Like, all my grandparents were really great cooks. And so if you went to someone's house, even if you just came from dinner, or had, dinner and dessert, you still couldn't get away with not having more food from them. There was just always food in front of you, so. Absolutely,
definitely. And we are here at the SRV location. It's been open for like what? About 6 years? Yeah. Talk about the process of opening up SRV, because it's a very unique restaurant and location as well within the South End. Talk about the process of SRV as well and what you want to offer.
Yeah, so to start with the location, this was 3 retail storefronts when we looked at it. It wasn't previously a restaurant. We were just drawn to the fact that there wasn't a lot on this side of the South End at the time. We knew that the people living here were going to Tremont Street and going to the other locations that are really popular, and we thought we could give them like a neighborhood restaurant that was right around the corner from them, and they wouldn't have to kind of go across the South End, which is not that far, but and we had a beautiful back area that we could turn into this deck patio. So we knew that was going to be a big thing for us going forward. So that was kind of what drew us to the location. And yeah, so the process of it was myself. We had Kevin O'Donnell was another chef. At the time, he now is at Justo in Newport, Rhode Island. Jim Kochner, Mike Moxley, they were the Coda group. So we kind of all came together and created this restaurant conceptually.
Absolutely. And when people come in, what is something that you want them to expect from you guys, meaning like food-wise, experiencing the food? How do you want them to feel? if they're coming in, what dish do you recommend them having? Like, what is the course you'd recommend them to kind of have coming in?
So it's a Venetian restaurant, and I think that people talk about the regionality in Italian cuisine all the time, but I think people still don't grasp what that means. And a lot of people come here and they're like, this isn't Italian food. And it's actually closer to Italian food than you might think. It's just that it's Venetian Italian. And so we want people to be open-minded to what they're experiencing, but also know that we are taking some liberties and making it our own and making it of the place, you know, closer to being like, we're in Boston. We're not trying to be in the Venetian Lagoon, serving up just the classics. So
Absolutely.
the cicchetti, which is the small bites, bacala mantecato, is a classic Venetian bite. So starting with that, and the polpette, those are the ones that never come off the menu. But then just experiencing whatever kind of seasonal things we're rotating through at the time from the cicchetti menu. And then I would say moving to the piatti, which just means plates. So they're small, shareable plates. And then the grani. So we're really big into, we make all our pasta in-house. We cook risotto to order. Risotto is a very classic dish in northern Italy specifically. So I think just working your way through with a couple things of each section of the menu is the best way to dine, and just be open to the fact that we're not cooking like recipes out of a cookbook of classic historical dishes. We're kind of taking that and running with those flavor profiles and trying to see, and not just myself, but the team of chefs that we have here, kind of incorporating our backgrounds into the food.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about, you know, some of the challenges you may have faced, whether like even opening up SRV, and we're going to talk about Cara in a little bit too, but just in your career, like what are some things that you've kind of had to face where, you know, you thought, man, this is like a difficult situation, like even getting things up, you know, running, or just like, I'm having a tough time with this?
Well, SRV is the biggest team I've ever had to manage. I think there's 25 plus people in the kitchen. That's from, you know, cooks to other managers to dishwashers. I think the tough thing about anyone that's in the restaurant business is it's a 7-day-a-week operation, no matter what, especially in kitchens. And I think the hardest part is not just keeping everyone motivated and keeping them working together, but then also trying to allow people to have their own lives and celebrate their friends' birthdays and go to their cousin's wedding and try to navigate all of that and keep your head above water for yourself, I think has been the hardest thing. And I think because I was so driven very young when I got into the business, I was one of those workers who like did anything that needed to get done. And I don't have that expectations of other people, but it's also very hard to find that where, you know, people that want to give more. And so that's one of the biggest challenges, especially in this size of a restaurant.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then let's talk about Cara, because I'm very excited to talk about that. You know, what made you want to foray into that kind of field of like pizza, or like, I guess you can call it like Neapolitan style pizza kind of, like going from SRV and Venetian cuisine to like just pizza as itself? Like what made you kind of want to go into that?
So I love pizza.
Yeah.
I make pizza at home.
Yeah.
It's simple food.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of my experience at SRV, which I love and hold dearly, I think it was like a little bit the anti of all of that. It was like, okay, so we've introduced this Venetian cuisine to Boston that no one's really touched upon here before, and there's a lot of education in that, and there's a lot of studying in that, and there's a lot of staff education in that, and that's taken a lot of energy from me and Kevin and other people that have been in the management team here. So it's like, well, how can I do something that is the exact opposite? Like everyone understands pizza.
Right.
Everyone's had pizza before, and so I think we do a unique style of pizza. We do a kind of a new age Neapolitan called Canotto. Really high hydration, a lot of puffy crust. So that's kind of like our twist on not just being a straightforward pizza place, but I felt that people could grab the idea of pizza obviously pretty easily. And it was a little bit of an easier lift on my end as far as getting a staff to get behind that and all that stuff. And it's what I would eat. Like if I was home, I would eat pizza, have salads, and drink natural wine, and that's exactly what it's. Cara is just those three things, really. So
absolutely. And was there any like, it's in the Cambridge area, was there any like motivation to like putting it there rather than any other place in the city at all, or just like simply you just thought it would be a great representation and like an add-on to what Cambridge has to offer?
I think it's a great add-on to what Cambridge has to offer. I mean, it's specifically in Central Square, and a lot of my cooking career was in New York City, and so I find Central Square to be an amazing neighborhood in Boston because it's one of those rare places that has like the graffiti alley, and all the shops in Central Square tend to be, I think, local, and I don't know if that's by design or just kind of how it's happened, but with the exception of like a Target and a CVS, there's just like a lot of like local retailers there, and I kind of felt like we could add something to that dynamic of that neighborhood. And obviously there's a lot of traffic there. It's a main T stop, so it makes it accessible for a lot of people, and all that kind of just turned me on to the area in general.
Absolutely. And you've been in different locations in terms of, in your career. Like, do you see a vast difference in people's tastes from different locations in terms of like what they want as a restaurant goer, or like just in general, sort of a different kind of feel to people coming into a restaurant? You see any kind of difference?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're in a place like Paris, I cooked in Paris too, I think people go there expecting food to be part of the experience. So I think people are open to eating whatever you will serve them in Paris, they will eat because that's what they're there for. And I also worked in Italy, and I would say that's pretty similar. I think people like to see the classics in Italy still a lot, but people are just excited to be there. I also think there's a different connection with food when you're in a different place. I mean, if you're in a beautiful, I cooked in Orvieto in Italy, so if you're on a hilltop overlooking the countryside of Italy, eating focaccia with olive oil on it, that tastes way different than being in your basement in front of the TV, eating focaccia with olive oil on it. So, you get to see people kind of light up in a different way, but that's not necessarily something that you're doing. It's just the place that they're in and the experience that they're having, and you can't really recreate that. And I think Boston is great because, we're in a local area, we're in a neighborhood, and we're a destination restaurant in a neighborhood, and so we just get to see a lot of the same people that come in that want to be here. They want to sit at our bar, they want to come out to eat and eat the food when it changes every season. So I think that the expectation is a little bit different there. It's more of like a comfort and a and consistency on our end makes us a place where people feel confident coming back to again and again.
Absolutely. And I know, last question, Cara just opened up, but I always ask people, and it's always like that open-ended question, but like, is there anything new coming out? Is going to be a new situation, a new restaurant that you're thinking about, even years down the line, that you're thinking about maybe even opening up or anything like that?
Not right now. I think it's just seeing where these two go.
Yeah.
I'm still learning to manage, my time between two places. So I think seeing where these two things go and kind of taking it day by day, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Hey, Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's a lot of us.